young kids are listening to this stuff. Bachram in white shirts and black pants in yeshiva are rocking out to like country music, and I'm like, how? I thought they were into rap or pop or whatever. Like, no, one Bachram said, no, the new thing is actually country. I'm like, it is. I'm like, it just happens to be. I'm the only guy doing it. Right. So I'm like the most famous country rock singer in Jewish music right now. You know, like.
Shalom, friends. Welcome to Orange Socks, a podcast celebrating Jewish creativity. I'm your host, Yitzchok Moully, inviting you to join me in exploring the soul of Jewish expression. Shalom, friends, and welcome to the Orange Socks podcast. And I'm here in the studio with the wonderful Tali. Yes,
and I'm in the studio with Yitzchok Moully, the one and only.
Yeah, thanks for coming out.
Honor. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming out. The last time you were here was out on the lawn outside.
First of all, how old are you now? So I know how long ago that was.
So the last time you were here was for my 40th birthday.
Right.
And every so often we do another 40th birthday.
Yeah. Oh, really? So you just keep having 40th?
But honestly, I got so old that like I no longer do a big blowout.
Wait, so that wasn't your 40th birthday?
No, that
was the actual 40th. Gotcha. Okay.
That was
because I know at a certain age people like get 40 and they just keep being 40 every year. Like my mother was 29 until the day she died. You know.
Right.
So I could understand why at a certain point when they say you're over the hill, you don't want to be over the hill, you want to be on the top of the hill.
So
for 40 is the top of the hill.
For about 5 years, it was like, oh, the 40th. Now it's like, yeah, it's fine.
The other 40th.
Yeah, no, 47, thank God.
It's been 7 years.
It's been 7 years.
Wow, that was a crazy night. I remember you had Moshe and Tali there that night.
Yep.
And you had Morty Kurtz, who regrettably moved to Las Vegas.
Yeah, he used to live local.
We miss him very much. I saw him, I think, once or twice in Fairlawn, where we live. He was a good friend from there.
Yeah, so I had a big blowout 40th birthday, and I wanted music. I wanted a live band, and
it was fun.
You obliged.
I remember Dov Oliver called me up, and I was like, that was great. And I remember the end of that night, I think he had so many l'chaims that I drove him home. He like passed out in the car. And at some point along the road back, like it was like this exit ramp, and there was a little turn, and like I hit the bump, I guess the curb.
Right.
It jolted him out of his sleep. So he's like, what was that? I was like, don't worry, you're all right.
Got him home.
It's like the prank in camp where they wake you up with the truck lights in front of you. That's what he was like, what's going on? It was fun. Yeah, it was a good night.
So you've been on stage?
Probably not long before that. I mean, when I was much younger.
When was your first time on stage?
There's a bima and a shul count?
Bima and a shul counts, sure.
So I would say probably 5 years old, like right after we moved from Toronto to Montreal. I'd go up and do like the Anim Zemiros at this little Ashkenazi shul that was next to our house until we moved like closer into the community.
Right.
Now it's a Chabad shul, so you know all roads lead to Chabad, they say. But back then they had these two like twins or brothers that were like cantors. That would have phenomenal voices. His name were Hamovich.
Okay.
And one of their kids actually now lives in Fairlawn. He's like runs a youth program at one of the shuls. And I ran into his dad. I was like, I don't know if you remember me, but I was 5 years old last time, or at least the first time I sang with you. That was like when we get up and sing, and I was like a little shy. Then when I was probably about 8, I was in a boys' choir called Chavrei Shir in Montreal for a few years. Shlomo Safran, or Shlomo Simcha, as it goes by, was one of the choir masters in the early days, and then he moved. And him and Emil Bender. Emil Bender was a guy from, I believe, from TMR, which is like a suburb of Montreal. And that's kind of really where I picked up a lot of the singing and learning harmonies and all that stuff. Like I grew up in a musical family. My father was on the road most of the time.
Right. For those who don't know,
my father was Moshe Yes, the late Moshe Yes, blessed memories. His yard site's actually coming up, Daled Shvat.
Oh wow, okay.
So l'chaim to
l'chaim.
And he wasn't always around. Like everybody just assumed, well, your dad was a music guy, so you must be that, like he must have taught you everything. And I'm like, I wish. If he taught me everything, I'd be a lot better. But he's a legend. But a lot of like the love that I got for singing and just like the technique and like the learning the harmonies and learning the tempo and all these different things that like most people don't even have to think about, but like, they really discipline you in it, came from there. And
Came
from choir,
choir.
We had quite a few friends that were in the choir that like were from my class, people from my school, and from different communities also. So it was cool. We got to see like some modern Orthodox people, some yeshivish people. It was a nice mix. And what happened about we did one big show, which was like in an arena, like where they had like probably a couple thousand people there. Like they packed the whole place up, and we did a concert there. That was like really my first time on stage singing. Like, and it was scary. Like, I had crippling social anxiety, and I was like scared to death, but I did it anyway.
Right.
And one of those things you'd have to like face your fear and do it anyway. And I
So
never
what motivated you to be part of the choir as a kid?
I guess my mom or dad thought it would be a good idea for me to get out and do something. Like they figured if I can sing on key, why not? There's a bunch of parents in the community that were doing it. I guess they're like
Right.
trying to. So we went, and it was nice. It was a really good experience. I made a lot of friends there that I'm still friends with today. I gave a shout out to Emil Bender actually on my Facebook page once. Tagged him in it saying, a lot of people just assume it was my dad that gave me like all this love for music. I mean, I loved his music too. He had
Right.
great music. But where I got it a lot from was really just being immersed in this kind of like regular weekly music singing culture
Right.
that we had. And he wrote really nice songs. He wrote some amazing songs. We were all, we're listening to Miami Boys Choir and Zulizemmer, like to try to like measure up to the competition. It was steep competition because these guys, we're talking about in the Nachum Stark, Ari Goldwag days when they were in their hit,
there was a big. It was big.
It was a big deal
Jewish,
back then, yeah.
Kids, boys choirs.
Back then was like the it thing.
Yeah.
They didn't have Mordechai Shapiro back then in This in Black. They had
all the cool kids went joined the choir.
Well, I don't know if I was a cool kid back then.
No, but I'm saying like it was a thing. That
that back then it was a thing.
If you joined the choir, you
have like you have aura, was what they call it today.
You're on the cheerleading team.
Exactly. You're the jocks, the Jewish jocks. Right? We didn't have athletes, so we had singers.
Exactly.
So,
which is wonderful to think that it's
vocal athletes.
No, but it's creativity.
Mm-hmm.
That in the late '80s, early '90s, or whenever it was, that that music was the in thing.
It was an in thing. I think it still is, but I think like it's a lot more accessible now because today anybody with a laptop can produce music and they don't even have to know how to sing anymore. And back then you had to. This is like pre-auto-tune days where you had to really sing on key.
But how many people do you think are actually creating music versus just consuming? Also the consuming side of it is so much easier.
I would say more people are creating today than ever.
Yeah.
For a few reasons. Number one, the tools are changing.
Right.
Like I'm one of the last of the generationals, as they call it. Like the people that were the first year millennials that went from the analog age to the digital age and saw both of them and remember what it was like.
Right.
And watching the world transition into like a completely computer-driven workflow. Like I used to paint, and then I got into graphic design, which is like, it's kind of like painting, but it's definitely not painting. Right. It can be, I guess, to a certain degree, but there's no tactile, hands-on.
There's still painting. I mean, there is.
Yeah, they have like Illustrator and all that, but there's, you're.
I'm saying there still is, there's no.
Yeah, everyone still does it. Yeah, no, there's still a place for it, for sure, 100%. And I mean that's kind of like where I got into it, and it is. I mean, I was playing an instrument at a very young age. I was. We had this little organ at my house that had like a fan in the back that you had to turn it on and it honked kind of like when you hit the keys. It didn't exactly make like an organ. It was like a. But I figured out that everybody figures out the first song, in the Jewish world, and then I picked it out by ear, and then I realized I have a little bit of an ear for this. I just kept trying new songs, and eventually my mom told my dad, "Hey, I think you should let him use your, bigger synthesizer because like he has like 2 octaves to work on over here, and you have probably more sounds. And I'm frankly getting sick and tired of this honking." So he would let me play with his keys, and they had like these mini keys on it, so it was good for at the time. I was a small kid. I don't know why, but my dad had these massive muscular guitar fingers. And he played this like in his studio. He had this tiny little, I guess maybe for the price, he got a bargain on it because it was like half-size keys. But I started using that to kind of like jump into, like, they had beats on it and all this stuff. By the time I was 8, I was like doing little simchas and gigs and things like that.
By the time you were 8, you were
Yeah.
performing.
Yeah, I was getting paid. It wasn't a whole lot. I mean,
No,
like,
sure, but
I mean, it was a lot for an 8-year-old.
oh, for sure, absolutely.
Like, if someone give an 8-year-old like $50 for playing for a couple of hours, and,
That's $50 is huge.
Yeah.
But the responsibility.
and eventually I realized that, wait, I could charge $50 at least per hour. So I did that, and I was like coming home with a few $100 a night, like sometimes a couple times a week. And I mean, it was back in the day when Fitcha Ben Shimon was living in Montreal, and we were like going head to head against the same customers, you know.
Right.
And I would always lowball. So I don't know. You know, it's Yiddish geld. But long story short, I wound up doing that for a while, and then I wasn't really singing while I did it. I just kind of played. But again, I was also like this. I always had this like awkward social, like socially introverted type of thing while I was playing. Like if you came up to me in the middle of while I'm playing and asked me if I know a specific song, I'd freeze. Like I literally could not do two things at the same time. I couldn't answer you or whatever. I would just like glitch out the whole system.
Right.
So I, in general, just tried to ignore people, and they asked, like, sometimes they'd ask me, like, in between, I'm like, you know, like, I'd give like the quick, not in Italy, but like in Israel, you go, Sablanot, yeah, and you know, I get a list of things, and I had a pretty decent repertoire back then. I played like quite a lot of different types of songs too, and then by the time I was at like my mid-teens, I was doing like bar mitzvahs at the age of like 10, 11, weddings at like 12. And then by the time I was 15, 16, I was sick of this style of music. Just 6 hours of straight will drive you crazy, you know?
Right.
So I just
So
said...
did you see it as a creative pursuit at the time?
At the time, not so much.
Instead of mowing lawns, this was how you were making your cash.
So I wasn't like using it as necessarily as my main income by then. Like... when I was up until then, maybe. But the creative side of it for me wasn't necessarily the performance. For me, the creative side was more about, the performance is really more about like how I like just delivering something that I've already worked out in my own mind. Where it's like, imagine you did a painting. Now people wanted 50 of them. You know, the first one is really the creative thing. Right. The next one, you're just copying what you already did.
Right.
And that's, I'm saying musically, that's how that would translate to. But by the time I was, I think 12, maybe between the ages of like 11 and 12, I'd be like a fly on the wall in my dad's home studio where he was like just getting into like MIDI arrangements where like as soon as like, we're talking about before Microsoft Windows was even an operating system.
Right.
He was running on like a Commodore computer, like a Commodore Amiga 500. I don't know if you remember how old these things are. They had like a 40 megabyte hard drive on it.
That was huge.
It was huge, yeah.
It was Commodore 64. That
wasn't the 64. It was like the next generation after the 64. Like the Amiga 500 was like, you can buy them today in like vintage stores that are selling like ancient memorabilia for like hundreds of dollars for people that want to play Jumpman or Bubble Ghost or whatever. But
so your father,
so he arranged
digital,
on this.
When this,
so he started doing stuff a little bit digitally, and you'll notice like in his album Art Imitates Life. That's when you'd start hearing a difference in like the sound of the production. He'd buy like an outboard synth module that has all these sounds, and he figured he's a pretty tech savvy guy. And he would arrange on this program called Bars and Pipes Professional. It was like I guess like the Logic or the Ableton or one of these like softwares that people use today of like the early days. And he showed me how to use it. Like when I was like bored, I'm like, hey, how can I try this? And
so what was your relationship to your dad and his music and his creations?
So I was the one in the family that was into music. I was the only one that really like.
You're the only one.
Well, we all can sing really well. Even the ones that think they can't, they do. Shabbos table was always like full harmony, like that kind of stuff. Some of us, dabbled in instruments a little bit here and there. I had a sister that can play a few songs on piano. I have a sister of mine that's borrowed a guitar of mine that I'm still waiting for her to return. I have a brother of mine that took a guitar up north and got bored of it after 6 months and learning how to play a bunch of stuff, and then just went on to something else. Like they
So
never.
you're the musician.
I was a musician in the family, I would say. The one that actually did gigs, the one that took years of it in university, the one that like took it seriously, the one that produced music, the one that worked with other musicians like that. So I naturally like it would make sense that I'd take an interest in what he did, and I did. I was fascinated actually by the creative process and how these things are put together from a young age. Like I was like looking at arrangements, like okay, so beats are basically made by putting like a drum beat and then a bass line and then or a bass line and then a drum beat. And then like you put a piano track and then this and that and then on top of that you can record vocals. Okay, cool. So I got watched him like record a few albums, and I was like I could probably do this. Maybe I was overconfident as a kid, but I arranged a couple songs on this thing. And one time he rented a bunch of gear to record like a band that he put together in the house. So it was like his own rock band called Burn Offering. And so they rented a bunch of like expensive studio gear, and back then they were like recording onto DAT tapes, like digital audio tapes. It was like at the time the next generation of sound quality or whatever. And so I asked him, "Oh, if I buy a couple DAT tapes at the music store, would you let me like export my projects onto that?" So I still have them. I never got them put onto a CD to actually know what they sound like, but I have them somewhere in a drawer in the bottom, like
Right.
collecting dust, where all things go to die in my closet. And I must sound hilarious because I did vocals on some of them, and it was like before my voice cracked. So I'm probably like it's probably very, very like one of the earliest recordings of me. Yeah, I've been in like little projects with like the Marvelous Midos machine, and a very, very small little part on that, like just doing sound effect stuff. I did like a vocal actor position on the Amazing Tour Bike albums, which was the another like
So you were on that.
I was Binyamin. I was the voice of Binyamin. It was like the
I don't remember. I
Binyamin's
remember the whole
like
thing. I
the-
don't remember
so
who were the characters.
So the bike is like this.
No, I remember this.
Right, so the bike was there to help Binyamin. Binyamin was like the
Okay.
kid that sucked in yeshiva, and I didn't even have to act. They just like be yourself, just go out there and just. And the Rebbe asked, just pretend it's you, like, but your name is Binyamin. Like, I'm joking. They didn't say. They gave me actually lines to say, but it was funny because like they really casted the perfect guy because that was me. And then that was probably like the first recording I would think that I sang on,
Right.
because I actually had to sing in like. Wanna go home, wanna go home. No fun being on the moon. That was my first probably vocal recording. Then after that sounded a little probably more serious, And then
So at what age did you think that you could make a career out of it, or at what age did you want to make a career out of it? Or did you want to?
I never thought I could make a career out of it. My father, I joke with people. I'm like, he needed a day job, even being one of the top singers in his time, and probably owned his own niche that no one else could really touch with a 10-foot pole. It's a Jewish music world. It wasn't like, even if like you're, if you're a top 3, top 5 guys, like you're Shweki or one of these guys that are like, doing weddings and doing the concerts and selling out stadiums, and they go, Omar Adam and Ishai Rebo. Okay, these guys can make it their full-time job. But when you get your tuition bill and you have a bunch of kids,
Right.
and you're like, how is like a couple gigs a month going to do this if you're not a wedding singer? And I don't want to. I don't want to be.
You after your time as a wedding singer kid, you realized that
I
that's
decided
not-
I don't want to be that. If I was going to produce music, first of all, I wanted to be more of on the production side of things. I realized like that this way I don't have to be on a stage. I can make music. I can arrange. I can produce for other people. I can record other people. And I have. I mean, I had Michal Streicher in my studio in Montreal. I had like some people that I worked with earlier on, before anybody even knew, like before I put myself out there as myself. People had the a privilege to work with, but I feel like how would I say this? It was like I kind of accidentally fell into doing gigs again.
being the front of the house,
Yeah,
kind of thing.
Yeah, like being like doing stage work
performer.
and that kind of thing, a performer. So I'll tell you how it happened. It's a crazy story. So Mayor Simcha Gazinski
Yeah.
in Five Towns? Okay.
Yeah.
So from like when I first started putting the Gunim out on YouTube, just for fun, just me and a piano. I remember like I always played keyboard.
Right.
Finally, like maybe like 15 years ago, I bought an electric piano with like the weighted keys.
Right.
You know, like it's a whole different
The
instrument.
professional.
Yeah, I don't know how professional, but it was sounded
Weighted
really
keys,
nice.
yeah.
It sounded, they used the samples of a Steinway piano,
Right.
so it sounded legit. But it was a whole different experience than playing a keyboard. It was like I was learning a whole new instrument because now I'm using both hands to just make sounds. Whereas one hand was controlling beats and chords and doing all
Right.
this stuff, and the other one was doing melodies. At this point, I'm just making all the sound come out of these two hands out of one sound. And I always, even in university, like when they were teaching us, like, you know, all this classical stuff, like I was obsessed with Nigunim. Nigunim to me, like for some reason, it like anchored me, you know. I'd go into these not rehearsal, like these soundproof booths with pianos in the Oscar Peterson Hall in Concordia University. And like my friends would walk by and like they'd pop the door open and be like, "Is that Rachmaninoff?" I'm like, "No, it's Schneerson." I'm like, "Oh, wow, I never heard of him." Like he's very, very, very niche, you know. And it was like it was a cool sound doing it on a piano. And I learned a lot about like the Eastern European scales that they used at the time. And so like when I played it, it wasn't necessarily sounding like some guy in a Farbrengen. It sounded like it came out of the old country when I was doing it, because I was like following certain, you know, knaches that they would do then expressively, you know. And so when I put out a lot of these nigunim, like I kind of played them very, very expressively and emotionally in that sense.
Are they still there?
They're still there, yeah.
They're not in a drawer somewhere, right?
No, they're there. I've even put out
can
quite
find
a
them
few. I've
online?
even arranged some more orchestrally and stuff since then. But in the early days, it was just me and a piano, and then that's when Mayor Mayor Gazinski got like, I guess, turned on to my channel. But he was originally, I know him from being a counselor in Gan Yisrael in Montreal.
Yeah.
But one Erev Shabbos, he reaches out to me and he goes, you know, like he texts me, because I just want you to know, I love all this other covers you do of, you know, Eagles and Bon Jovi and all this guys. You do great, but what turned me on to your channel was in the Gunim. I just want you to know, for your own marketing purposes. I'm not telling you what to do. Take it as what it is. I said, okay, fine, beautiful. So Erev Shabbos, I have a little pin, more Nigunim. All right, fine. So at the time, I was living in Muncie, and I always had this thing like that. Like Shabbos morning, before davening, if you don't learn Chassidus, it's like you didn't daven. You know, it's just been a thing. My craziness. You know, a lot of people want to sleep in. That's fine. For me, it's like I don't learn enough during the week to be able to do that on Shabbos. So I found out in Muncie they have a shear with YY Jacobson Shabbos morning. That if you're lucky enough, if he's in town, you can catch it. He's phenomenal. He's not just hilarious, but he's brilliant. And so oftentimes I'd go. It would be a nice walk from the house. So I'd get up early and I'd slip out. I'd go there, and it happened to be that week he was teaching a mimer on the, what was it called? Same as say or something. It's some obscure halacha about taking an animal out with a leash on Shabbos, and you can even pull it, and it's not being mechal Shabbos. And really saying you should read it as shir, not as seer. That it's not that with a niggin you can pull somebody out of a rut that they're in, and even through doors that are spiritually normally closed for them. Like, oh, cool. So second hint that I should be playing more nigunim. Fair enough. Right. So Matzah Shabbos, my ex-wife's friend adds me to this Facebook group. It's called Sounds Lubavitch, but okay.
Yes.
I don't know if you heard of it?
Yeah.
So back then, this group had like 400 members, maybe. I was like, okay, and I'm reading through these posts. I'm like, there's everybody from the entire spectrum of like the most frum to the most atheist and anything in between. Anybody ever has to do anything with Lubavitch?
And everyone's got an opinion.
And they're all free market, you know, like real freedom of speech. You can say whatever you want, no judgment, whatever. People have questions, they can be answered, they can be whatever. You can criticize it, whatever you feel like. It's a safe space, like they said, you know? And so, So they, so I'm like, okay, this is a very interesting post. So I'm like, these are a very interesting, fascinating group of people over here. And that night, I get some notification email that Facebook has this new feature called live video. I'm like, oh, cool. And I check, I'm like, can I do it inside the group? Yeah, I can do it in the group. Okay, nice. So I go in the group and I type in the title, songs you'll never forget no matter where you go. And I just started playing one Hartzig Niggin after another, like Chachila Riber, Paltava Niggin, the Alter Rebbe's Niggin, the Albavis, whatever, anything I can think of. One after, and it's so strange. Everybody in the group was tuning in because first of all, they never saw this novelty of live video.
Right.
It was like a big chiddush. Then like live video. What do you mean live? No one has live video. So they're like, "What is this?" Oh my god, I can comment on it. It's crazy. I can do another nigga, and like it became like an interactive, like a musical Farbringen, you know. Right. And the admins of this group reached out to me afterwards. They were like these two girls. They were cousins. One was like from Crown Heights. One was from Kingston, Pennsylvania. And they're like, "Listen, we don't know who you are, but for the first time ever, everybody in this group agrees on something. So just if you don't mind, just keep doing what you're doing. It's lovely to see this kind of unity come out of this group. We never thought it was possible." And I was like, "Okay, sure, thank you, you know." And then so I started doing this Motzei Shabbos jam on this thing, and it became my thing.
So that
and that really is what broke the social awkwardness for me.
This is what brought you back into performing again.
Wait, I know it's a long story.
Oh,
Yes, just don't jump the gun. I want to get into that. So
I love this idea of what you're saying, that the way music brings people together.
It did, and it does. It still does.
It so much does.
It cuts through all the klippas and the baggage and whatever, and lodges like right to your soul and your heart of your soul. You know, so like it bypasses all thought and you know, like and seichel and constructs, and just goes straight to the core of what makes you feel Jewish.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I started getting messages in my inbox on Facebook Messenger from like people. One guy was like, "You understand? Like I haven't kept anything in like 13 years. I mean, like nothing. Like I could go out and do things that I shouldn't be." Because I didn't feel like there was any Judaism to me. Right. And the first time I hear this song, this nigga, and he's named a specific nigga, and I'm like, I felt my neshama for the first time in years. Like I didn't keep him kippur, I didn't keep him nothing. And all of a sudden I'm feeling this. So I know you don't know me from a hole in the wall. I just want you to know that what you did, it really had an effect on me, like in a good way. And I was like, oh, beautiful. So I said, let's keep doing this. I made it like a weekly thing. For years, but like it started off like sometimes when Shabbos came out too late, I'd do it Erev Shabbos or whatever. It started off as Motzei Shabbos and would switch between.
Right, depending.
And then I started getting like a following, and this group started growing a lot. Like all of a sudden, like there's like thousands of people in this group, and this is before Facebook realized that people were getting a lot of free organic reach using these videos, and then canceled it and made it. You only know if you have 10,000 followers, now you get 50 views. You know? Right. Back then, you can have 400 followers and get 2,000 views.
Right.
You know, it was very, very. The whole algorithm changed, but back then it was like getting me a lot of attention. And after like a couple months of doing this, I just had people reach out and say, "Hey, can you do that on stage?" I was like, "Yeah, I guess so." Theory, and like, "We'll pay you." I'm like, "Oh, okay, sure." And then so I went out, and the first time I did it, I was scared to death and I was sweating buckets. But like before that happened, like for like a few months before, I guess people put two and two together. They heard my last name and saw my mutual friends and realized who my dad was, and they'd be, "Oh, you're the son of Moshe. Oh, do you know this song? Do you know that song? And you know my Zadie? Do you know that?" And I started playing covers of like all the like nostalgic Jewish English songs that we grew up with.
Right.
My father's stuff, like Abie Rotenberg stuff, like Destiny. All like the music that the Baal Teshuvas had playing in their homes.
Right.
That was in a language that they understood. And I was all about that nostalgia, because that's the music that I listened to. For 10 years, I checked out of the whole Jewish music scene. When people ask me, like, I don't know, who's Benny Friedman? Like, I'm like, I don't know this guy from a home. I never heard of him. To me, like, Shweki was the last guy that was just coming on the scene when I started listening to other stuff, you know?
Right.
And I took a long hiatus. When I came back, like, the whole thing changed. Like, it wasn't no longer, like, 15 guys in the scene. There's like 150 guys. Now there's 1,500 guys.
Right.
You know, and then you're talking about a period of 10 years. It went 10x. Because now anybody can produce. You know, you can get a laptop and you can produce. There's tutorials to teach you how to do it. You know? And then I wrote my own music. I started writing my own music in English before this even started. and I put one song out like on YouTube. It was called "The Almighty is on Our Side." It was during the first Gaza war,
Okay.
and I think we're talking about 2012 maybe.
Right.
And it was so bad. I cringed when I listened to how bad it sounded. So when we went back into Gaza again, I decided, okay, I got to do this one right, and I went back and I did it again. And
Well, they say if you don't cringe from your old work, then you haven't grown.
right. No, I cringed from stuff I did 2 years ago. This is like, I'm talking about like 10, 12 years ago. But and I was so eclectic. It's like you have, like, I see a painting, I can tell it's a Yitzchok Moully painting. I see it like it's something that's this vibrant and like this for sure. It's like nobody does this but you, you know. It has like your brand on it almost, just stylistically, right?
Right.
My biggest problem was I couldn't figure out what that is.
What your style was.
Right, I was all over the place, literally like my playlist that I listen to. Even when I listen to music, I listen to a jazz number, then a country number, then a death metal number, then reggae, then pop, then maybe not so much pop, then rock, and I'd be like all over the place. And production wise, like my songs, I just said whatever my song lyrics need to sound like, I'll just apply the right style to it to make it feel like that's what it is.
Right.
And it felt appropriate at the time.
But people couldn't track you because you didn't have a single style?
Well, not that they couldn't track me. I mean, I still had a following, but I got some good advice from Avram Rosenblum from Diaspora. So he was telling me, you gotta like, people don't want like Kinder surprises. I'm paraphrasing. I'm not quoting him word for word. He's like, I'm folk rock, for example. People know that if they get my album, they're getting a folk rock album. So I can find something you like, that you can listen to, that you would sing along to forever, your deserted island album, so to speak,
Right.
and make that your sound, or find your sound, however, but stick to it.
So it's interesting that idea of find something and stick to it. But the way he's saying it is for the others. So how much of the creative process, how much of the creativity is for yourself, and how much of it is for the others? Because you're saying that.
So the ones that are for myself are sitting in a folder called Untitled Projects number 550, Untitled Projects number this. I have a lot of those.
Right.
I had like before this Holy Outlaws album came out, which was like this country rock sound that I went with in the end. I almost put out a song in patois, in like authentic Jamaican dialect of English, about like how Hashem is in everything.
Right.
And it sounded legit. Like people listen to it, but like, that's not you. You don't speak like that. I'm like, I know, but it felt very appropriate for this thing. And one guy I was like, who I did a collab with, Bacher from Texas. So he was like, I can't wait to hear that song to come out. I'm like, it's never coming out. You heard it in my studio. It's the only place you can hear it. Right. I'm like, it's not that I don't want to. It's just that at this point I made a decision. I'm like, okay, I'm going to stick to this style. And the public responded to it. Like they said, okay, we like this for you. Like this,
Right.
This is your. Even some of my best friends were like, this is so you. I couldn't believe you haven't done this until now.
What is that? The
Like this, just the sound. The sound, just like I found my sound.
You found yourself.
After like over a decade of trying everything and not necessarily failing, but like not finding it. Like I found it. Like Edison found like 100 ways not to make a light bulb.
Right.
Or whatever.
Right. But now that you found your sound, do you still dabble with other things?
Yeah.
Or you're happy with...
Yeah, but I can dabble with other things for other people. Like, for example, I do like voiceover work as well. One of the reasons I got into recording and buying recording equipment was because I did like professional voiceover work in my earlier days. Like for JLI videos and different other commercial projects and stuff. I had a friend of mine who's a video editor, and he'd asked me to do this, and eventually I did enough of it that it was worth it to buy my own mic and my own setup. I had a computer already. I had an idea of how to record. I was pretty tech savvy.
Right.
So
and you can do covers. I mean, you can definitely play other people's covers.
I have. I covered a lot of my dad's stuff before I can find, like, I brought with me a bunch of vinyl, there's a crazy story behind this. My father's masters were burned many, many years ago in a fire, and we don't have access to them. So trying to get his stuff on Spotify was impossible. And for years, I've been on waiting lists on this, like, marketplace for vinyl called Discogs. where you can type in an artist and you get an email the second the new item comes up for that artist's name. And so I'd always look through. Like I had couple
So
records at home.
trying to find original vinyl of your father's work.
I had some original vinyl, but I wanted to find never been open vinyl. I couldn't find it. I wanted to remaster. I tried every type of like technological way to do it, digitally. Nothing, even AI, different, clean up. Nothing worked. And I called a remastering place in California, and they were like, the real way to do it is get the masters. I'm like, thank you, Captain Obvious.
Right.
I wouldn't be calling you if you had the masters. He goes, then find an unopened record. I'm like, good luck with that.
So that's what it is. If it's an unopened record,
It's the best.
then it's clean.
It's clean, never been played. Then there's no scratches and pops on it. Like you'll get the best analog, perfect rendition of the original, closest to the master that you'll ever get. It's like 1 degree less than a master would be an unopened vinyl record. And so I sent this. I got off the phone with him after he tells me this, and like that day, after being 10 years on a waiting list, I get like emails from 3 different vendors all of a sudden, notifications that is mamish from Hashem. That like the 3 of the albums are now available like in mint unopened condition.
Wow.
In the same day, I was like hitting the Powerball twice in a week.
Right.
So I quickly bought them all. I FedExed them over to the guy, and he got them remastered in like super high definition, better than CD quality sound. And I put it on Spotify finally, and like now people are like able to find a lot of his older stuff from Magama. I brought them actually with me. With the
I don't have a turntable.
yeah, you don't have to. I'm saying like people today, like my son was like a teenager. Like I have 2. He was like, we should do vinyl. I'm like, why were you like into vinyl? These kids grew up with. Swipe left if you don't like the song.
Right.
That's the age you live in. This
That's wonderful
consumable.
that your son is into vinyl.
I don't know if that is so much into vinyl. Is that it's such a novelty for them that they lived in a consumable music age where like they didn't have to go to a record store and browse through. They had $15 only to spend. Like, what am I going to buy? Which artist do I like more than other? They had to do a lot of cheshbonis in their head back in the day when you bought an album. It was a big commitment.
Yeah. Even listening to an album.
Not everybody knew how to use Columbia House. Like some people, and in the Jewish music world, there wasn't that.
Right.
So they had this new thing where you have this tangible goods from an artist you can actually hold in your hand.
Right.
It's like getting a JPEG of a Yitzchok Moully picture or actually holding
An original.
a canvas of yours.
Right.
Right. It's like a different experience. And kids today, for the most part, grew up never knowing what that's like. Like the idea is like getting merch. Okay, but merch is like getting a cap.
Right.
But they didn't actually hold it out. They didn't have to fight over the play button. Which side of the tape we're playing now? Like we didn't have that experience. They didn't get like fight over who gets to hold the lyric sheet.
Right.
You have to read it over a million times until they can memorize it and like all that. Like we were very committed to our artists back in the day.
And I mean, you could try to skip a song, but you couldn't. You'd have to fast forward and miss it. And,
today you can just Google the lyrics and they're all there, and everybody has their own MP3 player on their phone. Or MP3 player, whatever. Their own subscription to Spotify or whatever it is.
Yeah, you don't even own the music. I mean, today it's just
you
Spotify,
can download it, but I'm saying is no one's there's no like communal music system that everyone has to share.
Right.
Everybody has their own accounts, their own thing, and like they're all listening in headphones, separate headphones.
Right.
Back in the day, you had one boombox. Some people had Walkmans. If you're lucky, everybody had a Walkman. Okay, whatever. But the point is, it's a different age, and kids grew up today not understanding what music was like back then, and so I think that's why they're into vinyl, because like it's a whole like, wow, this is
It's an
big.
experience. It's actually an experience to listen to music.
Yeah, it's a tangible, tactile, like music experience, and so for them, I could see why that's special, but. Growing up, we took it for granted. This is like how music's always going to be. And then one day, all of a sudden, Napster comes out and like blows the doors open for everybody. Kaza and all these Morpheus and all, and the internet just took over, and everybody's like, "What? You listen to anything? It's crazy. What's going on?" And then like, how is there Jewish music on here? You're not allowed to share Jewish music. Like people didn't realize there's people that live in these gray lines that upload stuff, or they don't realize that their whole computer is being uploaded to the internet while they use these softwares. And long story short, it changed things for a lot of people. There's a lot of lawsuits about it. I mean, in Canada, growing up, they took it all the way to the Supreme Court, where they said at the end, no, you can't really say that it's a problem to share them online. Like, what's your rationale? They're like, well, if that's the case, then how can you share a book with a friend?
Right.
Why this copyright work and not that one?
Right.
So if you own it, you can share it, whatever. I don't necessarily understand all the particulars of the ruling. In the United States, at least I think they ruled the right way, and they figured out like ways to punish them if necessary. But it's like, they also had all those FBI warnings at the beginning of every TV show that everybody just recorded off the TV. Didn't really stop anybody.
Right.
But so what happened is I just went down this rabbit hole of just, producing whatever I felt like until I found something. And during that time, I was also still producing Nigunim. I put out quite a few. I was thinking maybe doing an album of Nigunim in my own little style, or maybe in a consistent style. I did one of like the Shpela Zaydas Nigun, but it was like very like, I think it was called like Kol Bayar. And very like interesting sound, like most arrangements that I've heard of a lot of Nigunim didn't have like that kind of sound to it. And some other ones were just like plain piano, like nothing too overproduced. Again, not very consistent. So I think the message is like, try to be consistent, like if you want to have a brand, like, and I work in marketing and advertising as my full-time gig. Like I tell companies the advice that I don't take myself when it came to my music until very recently. Well, like, you need to keep your brand consistent. Your tone needs to be consistent. Your colors have to be consistent. Your look and feel, the reaction that people see when they see your brand has to be the same.
Yeah, but yes, but it's an expression of soul. It's an expression of you and what you're in the mood for, or where your soul is leading you. And if,
so that's advice that I would give somebody who's the artist that's not necessarily. Let's put it this way: there's the music, which is what you're talking about, the expression of your soul. But then there's a music business.
Right.
So to try to, like, I guess as a creative, to really put it out there, I have to take advice of people that have been in the game a lot longer than me and say, yeah, this is also a business. Treat it like a business.
Right.
And so that's the reason. And the second I did, all of a sudden everything changed.
Clicked.
I was doing gigs until now.
Right.
But I never had like thought for a second that like the Mir Yeshiva is listening to my stuff.
Right.
It is. And in Lakewood, and I'm looking at like my stats on Spotify. It's like, it's the places that all of a sudden are listening to me are completely like unexpected. Like, I thought maybe people my age that grew up and they heard Bon Jovi, or they heard like a few of these like, secular artists that had that like country rock sound would be into it. Young kids are listening to this stuff. Bachram in white shirts and black pants in yeshiva are rocking out to like country music, and I'm like, how? I thought they were into rap or pop or whatever. Like, no, one Bachram said, no, the new thing is actually country. I'm like, it is. I'm like, it just happens to be I'm the only guy doing it. Right. So I'm like the most famous country rock singer in Jewish music right now. Like I'm also the only guy. So It's like very, very big fish in a small pond. I could also be the worst for all I know until someone else comes on and I have to compare. But it was cool. I was very, I guess, blessed in the right place, right time to do it. My father was coming on the scene, the right place, right time to bring like American style Jewish music to the scene, right when all Chabad houses are opening all over the U.S.
He was huge.
Just right place, right time. In his career, he had a lot of wrong place, wrong time. Here, grab that bag for a quick sec. There's a record in here I want to show you. It was like before he was from. So we're talking about in the 60s and the 70s. He started a psychedelic rock band.
All right.
And 10 years before there was ever the concept of psychedelic rock. I mean, to the point where people, that's some on the bottom, to the point where like,
amazing.
That's an idea of right thing, wrong time.
Right, psychedelic
right? And he
rock,
didn't really make
analog psychedelic rock.
So he didn't make a fortune off of this record. Let's just say at the time when it came out, it was not.
It was ahead of its time.
Yeah, but like if you go 10 years later, these fancy like famous mix albums that they used to do are playing that stuff on it.
Right.
But it was already past time to actually the window to make money with it. you know.
Right.
And when Megama came out, Megama the world was thirsting for something like that. Like if you like in that songbook that I gave you from Journeys. So Abie was you know unsettled by the fact that there's a lot of these Kiruv organizations like NCSYs and Chabads and stuff, and they have crowds that are out there that they just don't identify with like the from sounding, you know, production style of Jewish music. It doesn't speak to them in their language. They don't speak Hebrew as a native language. They don't speak Yiddish. So some might know a couple words, whatever. But at the time, American music was like the style. Everybody was listening to all these, and there's a lot of different styles of American music. It happened to me. My dad was a virtuoso in a lot of them, and when he came on the scene, he also came from like a CBS Records, you know, A&R guy type of background, and recorded with and performed with a lot of Hollywood professionals, like big names, and he knew what it was about and how to do it, like the way the top guys in the business did it.
Right.
The Yossi Green said, you know, like we were all making Jewish music until Moshe Yess came on the scene. Then he showed us how to do it professionally, you know. And it was a different era, you know. When Abie said like, oh, I wish somebody would do this kind of style, his friend was like, oh, listen to this album. It just came out. These two guys in Israel called Megama, and he heard the song by Zeyv. He's like, oh my God, this is it. These guys are doing it.
Right.
And then he wrote the song Time to Say Good Shabbos right after that. I was like, he's like, I got to take a crack at English songwriting. Right. And then he did it. Up until then, it was Dveikus. It was, you know, beautiful stuff. Very hard to, you know, Kumzit style and beautiful songs that are iconic. I mean, Achenu, Malach HaGoyel, like everyone knows these songs.
Sure.
But it's just like, you know, Jackie Mason would say, it's too Jewish. It's too Jewish. So my father made it sound a little goyish, but he imbued it with so much Judaism.
Contemporary. He made it accessible.
It was also like a musical documentary film, if so to speak, of what it's like to become a Baal Tshuva, walking into synagogue for the first time, not knowing what page they're on in the siddur, or if you're even holding a siddur, you know.
Yeah.
All that stuff, you know, what it's like to make the choices, like the rationales to bring you to a certain point in your life where you choose to put on tefillin and talis, those kind of things. And he spoke just to a lot of people that way that had nobody else to sing to them. Now, thank God, there's a lot about tshuva. There's a lot of artists that are extremely musically talented that are doing very similar things. But he was the first to do it, and the first guy to actually get signed by a major secular record label in the film world, like decades before Matisyahu was on the scene.
Right.
And it was a big deal, and it was the right place, right time. Was he the only person that probably could have do it? I wouldn't say so. I think he was a phenomenal guitar player. He's a great singer, a spectacular
great
storyteller, songwriter. He knew how to write really good lyrics. He was raw, and he didn't need a 10-piece band to back him up. Like, he made more music out of one guitar than most 3 musicians I know. It sounded like sometimes like 2 or 3 people were playing, and he knew how to, like, he had that stage presence that can work a crowd. Like that, when you'd schlep them wherever he wanted them, and they'd move with it, you know. And he had like this, I guess the it factor of what it takes to actually not just record and write and whatever, but also to perform it, because the performing is really where it's at. And they did like crazy tours back then. And I think everybody has their time to shine, you know, like. Right now, I would say, like, I've never had this much good feedback of anything I've done. I think maybe of all the songs I've ever written, I probably put out like 50 songs before I put out this album. Like, I maybe got like 10 emails total from people saying, hey, I really appreciated this or that or the other.
Right.
You know? And like now I'll get like 2 a week. Okay. Like, which is like a very different. I don't know how long it's going to last for, so I'm enjoying it while I have it. I'm not trying to like pat myself in the back, but I was just saying it's like a lot of Bachram sending me like messages or flip phones, because it's not coming in on WhatsApp, it's coming on SMS, and be like, you know, I used to listen to this so and so, you know, secular artist, and I always had this conflict that like to throw out like the Yushka's name or something in the middle of the lyric, or talk about baptisms and whatever, and it just felt like it's like not doing my neshamas any favors, and like, but there's nothing else. There's nothing Jewish that does it. You finally did it.
Right.
So I was like, all right, good. It's a dirty job, and someone's got to do it. And that's kind of how I have, I guess, evolved or directed myself into this thing that I'm at. And I'm not sure if I'm going to stay. I think I'm going to stick with it. Like, it makes sense to until something else comes up. Who knows? I mean, Bob Dylan had a whole crowd turn on him once when he went electric. He went from this very like acoustic folk kind of sound, and one day he had like this band. The band was called The Band, actually. Back him up, and they had like a whole electric guitar and everything, and the crowd was like booing, like they were mad, like we were mid-concert. You changed your whole sound in the middle of a concert. Right. Funny story is the band that back then was called The Band was like the band for a lot of people in that business. And the guy that started that thing they used to be called the Hawks. They were, it was Ronnie Hawkins from Toronto. It was a group of Canadians. And he actually I found out just this year, like a few months ago, that he taught my dad how to play guitar when he was younger.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I was like, oh, cool. This guy's got like musical yichus. Look at that, So what
you're saying is it really is a symbiotic relationship. I mean, it's between performer and an audience.
If you're going to perform, you got to...
Whether it's live really is, that feedback loop is right there. Right. But even when it's not live, that you're getting the feedback, that you're getting...
You need to take feedback. It's like if I was a doctor, right? And I'm working on a patient, right? Let's say physically ill patient, right? I'm not going to look at the biometric feedback that I'm getting and adjust accordingly.
Right.
Right? If you're doing music and you're trying to do music, let's say specifically to speak to people that are, like, I would say that lately my style has been going into writing about people that experiences that seem very like conflicting. Like the world's against us, the world's turning on us and everything, and doesn't matter. We're still going to be here 1,000 years from now, and they won't. And it's kind of trying to empower people, like, to push back against all the anti-Semitism and all the way the entire world turned on us since October 7th, which I don't understand still. Right. But I'm just, like, saying, like, try to give the world a little chizuk with what's going on in English. And so for me, it's like medicine for the soul, So if I'm, let's say,
that's fine.
If I was a doctor and I'm doing medicine for the body, like or adjusting, let's say, the IV or whatever. I don't know, because I'm not a doctor. I don't do this stuff. But I have to look at what the body's telling me in order to really adjust accordingly, right? It's like a dance. And so with music, I think in the sense that, like, let's say people like you as a person, but then your music just doesn't speak to them as much as it could. But then all of a sudden you do something that does, and they're like, "Whoa, this is so good! How come we didn't know you could do that?" Or, "Oh, we really like this for you." Or, "Oh, this sounds really, we really appreciate this more. Even we appreciated it before, but even more now." Then take that. It's a sign from Hashem saying, "Okay, maybe your mazel's in this direction."
Yeah.
Don't say, I'm not going to be like the stubborn guy and say, "Oh, I'm the artist. Heck with all you guys. I'm going to do what I want. I'm going to play nursery rhymes because I feel like it." I could do that, but who am I really doing it for?
Right.
At the end of the day, if I do it for myself, okay, that's great. I can play music to myself anytime I want. If I play a nursery rhyme or a lullaby or a niggin or whatever, I can do it for myself till the cows come home. But if I'm going to say I'm doing it for other people, and I'm writing it really because I work through these thought processes in my head, and I'm trying to put into words musically so that someone else can come to the same type of confidence that I feel about whatever situation it is, then I got to do it for them.
Right. Yeah.
Like, I could be selfish and say, "No, who cares about you?" But and I do. Like, it's hard to kind of adjust from writing for me to writing for somebody else. And I think until very recently, I was just writing for me.
Right.
Like, I wrote an entire album called Book of Ruth of 15 songs. Right after my mom died, I wrote it for the first yard site. I was in a really dark place. I was going to grief counseling. I was like, my previous marriage like just broke up in the middle, like weeks after my mom died. I was like in a train wreck, and I was like grieving a lot of things because I never properly grieved my dad. I never properly I finally like when years later, a few years later when my mom passed away, like I started saying, I need to deal with this because this stuff is like I'm feeling that there's like serious emotional baggage that I'm pushing so far down that I don't even want to feel it. And now I got to really work with it and let it come up. And so as I was doing it, as I'm feeling these things, I'm trying to work through the rationales of why would God take somebody like that from us so early? Or why would they, all these questions everybody has, So I worked through these rationales on my own. I had to come up with my own. I had to play like Lahavdil, I should say, devil's advocate. I had to play God's advocate against me, even though I'm the one like taking him to court, and I'm saying like, why would you take her? She was a tzedekah, so she ran gemachs for the entire community. Everybody loved her to death. The whole world would be better with her. Why would? And to me, it was like, if you have your precious gem from your vault and you lend it to somebody to beautify their home or whatever it is, at a certain point, you got to call it back. So I could have given you a cubic zirconian. Instead, I gave you a princess cut 20 carat pink diamond D flawless. But it'll be for less time.
Right.
I could give you the Wicked Witch of the West for 120 years or this one. Which one's it going to be? So I said, you know what? It was a chesed. At the end of the day, it could have been a lot worse. I know people that would never want to visit their mother. I, on the other hand, feel very fortunate that I had that. And I that was my rationale at the end. And, not everybody had the same experience as me. Not everybody had a great, a great mother to whatever. But for me, it was like, okay, I'm going to start working through these things in my own way. And I'll just document the same way my father documented, what it was like to be about tshuva or whatever. I'm going to do it just through what it was like to lose somebody you love. And it was really not made to be commercial. It was literally just self-therapy, and I put it out for the world. And a couple messages, the 10 messages that I spoke about, 3 of them were from that thing.
Right.
The rest of them were from the Gunim.
But there were those.
But those 3 mattered.
Those people really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to me, it felt like I spent a year pouring my heart and soul into saying, okay, it got very, very few streams. If you start looking at streams, that's the road to giving. Just don't even bother. Like,
right.
But it's like the people that needed to hear it, they heard it. And Hashem directed them to hear it.
Yeah.
The ones that didn't. They have their own therapists, whatever.
Right.
And so up until then, I was doing things for me. And after that, I kind of slowly transitioned into like doing it. Like I got remarried, and my wife was like, I want you to do like a Shabbos. She did an album. Right. Very tall order. An album's a big project. So like, Shabbos album. I'm like, oh God, let's start with a song, okay? So I did one of the Zmiros. I did like in like a Spanish pop kind of flamenco-y style. Rimzel Yisrael. And every time I did like Hebrew songs, I did my Israeli accent. People always think like I'm Sephardi. I'm like, I'm not Sephardi. I grew up Chabad. I was born in Israel, but I just for some reason it rolls off the tongue better for me when I sing certain songs that way. When I sing in Niggin or in Yiddish or whatever, I'll sound like a Polak. But if I'm just singing Hebrew, I always just felt more comfortable that way. And I did that. I really did that for her because she wanted it. But in the end, did I enjoy it? Yeah, actually, it felt good. Felt good to do something for somebody else, And I don't know, just it changes. I guess your intention and your whole. How do I say this? Like, if I'm going to cook myself breakfast, right? I don't care if my eggs come out sloppy or whatever. If I'm going to do something for somebody else, I'm going to do it right.
Yeah.
When you have guests over, you bring out the good stuff.
Right. That's very true. That's a very strong analogy.
Anyway. So that's I think how I got there, and I'm just happy I did it because people seem to like it, and to me the whole creative process was a lot of fun. And I took my time with it, and I worked on every lyric. I threw out more songs than I kept. And like when you're drawing and like you hit like one, the guy that used to like paint and draw, like when you're drawing a face, and like you realize that like you're not feeling like it at 100%, and you're probably not going to get the other eye perfectly symmetrical, so you just cover it with like hair.
Right.
You know? A lot of those.
Yeah.
A lot of those projects are just like scrap them. Okay, this song it sounds good, but it's not working, and I can't like work my way out of this little like whatever. Okay, scrap it. Maybe I'll revisit in a few years. But I have like a lot of these untitled projects that are just, I don't know, a folder full of lyrics and a folder full of project files, and the best of them I keep. And I had like 15 that I was going to put on this one. And I kept 5 for someone told me you don't need 15 for an album.
Right.
You did that on your
Yeah.
last one. It didn't do you any favors. Keep 5, save it for the next one.
Right.
Make it into like a series, like Destiny or like Journey. Like make
Right.
volume 1, volume 2. So that's how that volume 1 got on. And now volume 2 is almost done. I'm gonna have probably by the end of the year a second one, which some of them are really really good, and it's a little bit different and it's a little more gritty. But I think it's good, you know. Like some people like squeaky clean songs, and some people like songs that address the darkness head on. And to me, that's like, you know, getting deep down in the trenches where I've been. Like my journey in as a Jew has been like through highs and lows, and I've had times in my life where like I looked around me and I realized I'm surrounding myself with like nobody that's going to bring me up. And what's going to happen if you stick around here? Are you going to still be like, do you think you're going to come in and tread water forever while everyone's pulling you in a different direction? Like, shape up or ship out, like my father would say. And so I made a lot of tough choices, and I've been through all those really really dark places where it's like, if you're not going to be your own light, no one's going to be. You know, and pulled myself out by the bootstraps, and thank God, because it was like it was a hard place to be. Today, I can't imagine what it was like if I was growing up today. Who knows where I'd be? Today, the world's so much worse than it was when I was. And I was a kid. It was bad. It was bad, but
it was innocent.
But you were still able to go out in the street past dark and with, you know, leave your bike outside your house, and in some cases it'll still be there. You know, it wasn't like terrible. Today it's like people getting sucker punched for just wearing a yarmulke.
Right.
Like that stuff wasn't going on back then. We had like the skinheads of our days would like spray a swastika on a tombstone in a cemetery late at night when no one was watching. Like that was like the worst that we had.
Right.
Like in college, all of a sudden, the how would we say this? The Islamic Revolution was starting against the Jewish people on campuses, and it was becoming like a very serious problem. And I just watched, like, from my 20s, the world completely changed to like a very terrifying place for a young Jew.
Yeah, no, today it isn't. Well, that's why we got your music. That's why we each got to share our light. We got to.
Yeah, I think Jews need to grow a backbone and really like say, hey, you know, like it's not our first rodeo.
No.
You think you're the first time in history that people rose against us? Look at every single one of them. What happened? Look at Germany. They almost took over the whole world. Look what happened to Germany. Now Germany is begging Jews to come to there. Like
we're still here going strong.
Yeah, they are. Now they're lighting menorahs at the places where they used to have the Nazi rallies. The world's changing, but unfortunately, it's like watching the grass grow. You know, trying to see like how much better it's gonna get. Like me seeing what's going on now with Iran is like, okay, we heard about prophecies about this stuff in the Gemara and everything. It's fascinating, but like, how long do we have to wait? Now, how many more guys have to, like?
Well, they're going through hell. They're going through hell over there, and they're fighting. It's
amazing.
We'll see how
I don't know if I have it on me. I have this T-shirt that we made where I worked at before. And this. Can you see this?
Something. Shalom. What is it?
Tordo.
Right.
So this actually was made like the day that happened, like within like 20 minutes. We had a design on a printing press, and we were like printing T-shirts and stuff. It was a cool little thing. Since like from October 7th for a few years, they had this like site that did a lot of pro-Israel merch and stuff, and very cool ideas on it. And we need to have a little chizuk. The world needs to know that we're not, the United States, as powerful as it is, and Donald Trump, as gutsy as he is not the one running the world. The whole world thinks that he is. At the end of the day, Hashem's pulling the strings.
Right.
And Hashem has always been pulling the strings. And we just need to have a little bitachon that whatever is happening, as dark as it is, it's going to be okay. Still got to do your stadlus. You got to
we got to do our thing. Exactly.
You got to do your thing. You got to, learn how to defend yourself if you're in a dangerous neighborhood. Don't just sit around and be like a target. But, in the times of, Nach, like we were warriors.
Yeah.
Well, and Abie was able to run faster than a chariot of horses. These guys weren't like, the Jewish athletes. People say there's no Jewish athletes. What do you mean? Look at Tanakh. We were beasts. Everyone, Moshe Rabbeinu, 10 Tfachim Tali, beat up a giant. We weren't like these little, like, we wouldn't just take it from everybody. Like, well, Para, okay, for a few years we took it. But at the end of the day, like, we came out victorious. And we always will. And
we always will.
The roads are leading somewhere.
Amen. Amen.
This Next one that I'm playing is Volume 2. It's coming out. Actually has a song in it it's called Unsung Heroes. It's probably leaning more to the countryside and less to the country rock side. Like it's a little more traditional, more like Johnny Cash style. And it's about whatever. I wrote about the intelligence operatives that we don't even know about, that are literally out there in places that they don't want to be, so undercover that their own wives don't know that they're Jewish. They have kids that are tucked away in bed and thinking their father's some oil executive, and meanwhile he's just waiting for a call.
Right.
And the day he gets a call, he doesn't miss, and disappears. And if they catch him and we'll never hear about him. They won't make a headline. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of these guys, and whether they grow up keeping Shabbos or kosher, to me, they're Mesiras Nefesh for us. Like they're sitting there to protect everybody in the Holy Land and even abroad from people that just want to wipe us out. And there's so many of these heroes that we don't even know. And I'm like, someone's got to do something for these guys. Give them a Misha Berach. Hey, give a Misha Berach for a guy I don't even know his name.
Right.
Write a song about him.
So you have a song about them.
It's called Unsung Heroes. It's going to be on the next...
coming out on the next album.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. And it's like I'm hoping to keep at this like direction.
Yes, please.
I like because of you can tell stories with it in ways that you can't do with a lot of other styles. Like for some reason, country music. The thing I think that the thing that draws a lot of people in is just they're trying to hear how it ends.
Right.
Like if it's just a nice hook or a nice pop song about or whatever. Or even something pasuk out of the Torah. A lot of people read psukim, they don't know what it means.
Right.
They're hearing songs, they're davening their whole life, and they never looked on the English side to see what it means. Maybe the Shema they know, because they were told the translation, But this thing's a story. It's engaging, it's captivating, and it gets people like drawn in. And if you add to that a good hook and a good guitar solo or this or that, it adds to it. But it gives you the option to really like say something in a way that people remember. And I think the reason why country music is so memorable is a lot of people will, for example, in the times of like the old country, the Hasidim would give over stories, and these stories are always imbued with how would I say, like they would encapsulate concepts, morals, and things like that.
Right.
That they would share, and even if it was a little bit above the head of the person that's hearing it, but at a certain age, a person will click and be like, "Oh, okay, that's the story." And now there's a very deep lesson in it. Okay, the boy that cried wolf. Okay, we get it now.
Yeah.
Whatever. So I think country music is kind of that, just for music.
Do you see your father in yourself in your music? Do you see yourself going in
And
Just the way you describe the story element and the great.
so he had some great stories in a lot of his stuff. I would say I would say I see why a lot of people liked his music. First of all, for that reason. Certainly, he was a world class, like, performer and everything else. But not a lot of other artists had as many kind of story things wrapped into their music that way. So the people that were into that, even if it wasn't necessarily a country song, but like the idea that they have a story element to it is a plus. I think Destiny was a great example of an album that wasn't necessarily country. There were a couple country songs in it, but all phenomenal stories.
Story, yeah.
Like the Lonero family. You remember that song? About the Spanish family that was running away from the Inquisition or whatever. It's fascinating.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
phenomenal
It
story.
told you on.
And it's just you remember the story because like finally, the family's still alive and they're still singing the song now in Israel. Many that are hundreds of years old and like, it's phenomenal. And now I'm singing it, and for all we know, they never existed and they never sang that song. But the idea that they could have been
Right. Exactly.
is I heard the guy that actually wrote that song is actually Rosh Hashiva somewhere now. He's out of the spotlight. He was a bacher in Israel. When my father and Megama split up, my father opened a coffee house called Moshe's Coffee House, and he had a lot of artists come there and just hang out and jam, and kind of like Hillside, And they'd have sandwiches and coffee and tea. And business-wise, he didn't really make it, but a lot of people passed through there. And this one young bacher named Maury Rockman was there, and he then he gave my father a song for his first solo album called Yosef, My Son. And a very great story song about a kid that made through the Holocaust and then got split up and turned away from his family. And he prayed every day after getting to Israel that that he'd meet that his parents would be alive. And he's at the kotel or whatever. And all of a sudden, like, he hears an old man praying for a son that he lost, and it's his father's voice, and he's reunited with his father's mother. And that guy turned out to take the stage name of Eli Nathan, who did all the Destiny albums. I don't even think it was like I think he took on a stage now. I could be wrong. He's been so low key,
right?
That there's a lot of obscurity around what happened to him, as far as I know. I'm sure there's a couple artists that know exactly how to get in touch with him, whatever. But from what I understand, like people tried to, and he's like, I'm not too busy running yeshiva, leave. But yeah.
Well, I'm glad you're not hiding.
Listen,
Glad you're not hiding your talents and your.
Thank you. I'm
right back getting out on stage.
Right back at you.
You're performing. You're not just producing.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
We could keep on going for a while.
So what were the questions you said? You had a few questions.
So we closed with two questions. With
everyone, or is this just like you did? Like
no,
everybody?
This is how we wrap up.
Okay.
We wrap up with who are three creatives that you think Who are three Jewish creatives you think the audience should know?
In the from Jewish world?
No, in the Jewish world.
First of all, I think people should know more from creatives. I just think that they're channeling from a different source in many cases.
Let's go with from creatives then.
Okay. Well, Eli Nathan is a big one. Okay. But most people probably know him.
All right. Eli Nathan.
He was great. Abie Rotenberg is a big one for me. But everyone knows him. So you're saying people should know.
Well, you don't know who people know.
That's true.
And the younger generation may not know.
If they don't know Moshe, yes, he'd be a good one.
Who's Eli Nathan? I don't know Eli Nathan.
Really? He's Destiny.
Okay, all right, Destiny.
Destiny's Eli Nathan. I can go. I can give off more than three. Does that work?
Sure.
Okay, as an artist, you probably heard of Chaim Sheriff.
Yes.
Phenomenal.
Yes.
Probably he's actually the reason I spent all my bar mitzvah money on an airbrush set. He made paintings that looked better than the original photographs. So I was like, how do you do that? I can't even get the two eyes to look the same. I'm like covering hair over the face. He's so good.
He's been given art advice.
Yeah, he's a legend.
He helped me in the
early
days. Yeah.
Oh wow, very cool. Who else? Creatives. There was a guy who used to write books. Does that count?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
So there was a series of books that I read by a guy. I think it was called Sender Zeyv, maybe? And it was called 10 Lost, Aleph Shin and 10 Lost. It's like 2 books. Okay. Very big books. It was like, I guess, Jewish fiction, spy thriller Jewish fiction with like apocalyptic messianic hypothesis possible scenarios of how it plays out.
We'll link these.
Let's just say in his book Mashiach was a Yemenite, okay. Who ran the Mossad. But it was really cool.
Nice.
It had some very cool twists in it and stuff. Actually, it's very hard to find because of like people. He painted it so real in words that the kids in yeshiva thought that it was like, for sure he's getting this information from somewhere legit. It's like they couldn't separate fact from fiction, so it became a little bit taboo.
That's a good artist.
But he was really good.
All right, one more. Let's go with one last one.
No, Moshe Yes, if you never heard of it.
Moshe
Yes. His stuff only got recently put back on the internet, so if you haven't checked out, YESS, second S is silent.
All right, well, you'll get all the links. We'll put them in the show notes.
Yeah.
And our closing question is, what's your advice for young creatives for them to find their orange socks?
Ooh, orange socks. That's a very big...
high bar.
High milestone. I say this to a lot of people, at least in the music space. A lot of people are like, oh, but this person's so talented, I'll never be like that. And, I'll never get that good. I'll never get all this negative self-talk. Never really works. And I'll tell them, like my father, when he first started off, I asked my bubby when they all the sham, like, was he always a good singer? Was he always like good at guitar? He goes, no way, you're awful. I used to beg him to close the door. It was so bad. Couldn't save my life. But he put into 10,000 hours. So was he born with a talent? I can't say he was. According to my bubby's story, it sounded like he wasn't.
Right.
But maybe the talent that he had was what we say in Yiddish, the Sitzfleisch.
The perseverance.
The perseverance, the can I say the tuchas meat, which is really what it means. To be able to sit down for hours and hours and hours on end and be okay with making mistakes and realizing that the only way you're going to get better is by making mistakes. I got to say, like in my earlier years, I lock myself in a room and play for hours and make thousands and thousands and thousands of mistakes. I learned how to play by ear only by making mistakes.
Right.
And over time, you just make less mistakes to the point where even when you make mistakes, you make them sound so good.
Right.
It sounds like you did them on purpose. That the second time around, you take that mistake and you creatively twist it into something really brilliant. The real talent comes from having patience with yourself. That and it's not just to develop what I would call a skill, like a skill for painting or drawing or playing an instrument or singing. The real skill, the real talent is being okay with not being there right now, but knowing that you'll get there. And it is like watching grass grow, but for some people, they're so patient and they don't let it get to them so much that it grows faster because they don't let it deter them from what they're trying to reach. I had a student in Mesivta. I teach guitar for a couple times a week to this Mesivta used to be in Muncie. And a couple of my students went away after just teaching them a few chords, and they came back after the summer playing like really complicated stuff. I'm like, how did you do this? Like, well, I brought my guitar to camp, and while everybody else is running around, I was playing guitar. Right. That's amazing. I'm like, I in my wildest dreams, I can never progress so quickly. But you literally, I'm so proud that you didn't give up, and I from 1 week to the next, I may not hear a difference, but you were away for a summer and you came back, and I'm hearing from 2 months.
Right.
The progress is phenomenal. So don't let the fact that it feels like watching grass grow get to you.
Right.
Because if you went away for the summer and you came back after not mowing your lawn, you're going to be left with like a massive. You'll see
the difference.
Yeah. So just
Yeah, that's some good advice.
Be patient and realize that Rome wasn't built in a day, and these things you'll only get better. Like the worst you'll ever be is today. The worst version of your skill will be today, and practice. Practice doesn't hurt.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Shalom, friends. Welcome to Orange Socks, a podcast celebrating Jewish creativity. I'm your host, Yitzchok Moully, inviting you to join me in exploring the soul of Jewish expression.
היום נעשה משהו בלתי נשכח